How are you doing?
Still alive
Yeah.
for now.
So what do you want to work on today?
Well, actually, I've gotten so pissed off recently that I actually pulled out the old resume.
Excellent. Tell me about it.
Um, so recently I was at the office because there was no work to be done, and that very same day I had an inspection. Now, I wouldn't have too many problems with inspections if it wasn't for the fact that when I was first hired on, I
Mhm.
was promised a time period to clean out my vehicle, to drop off my old equipment, to get new equipment, and I have yet to be able to receive that. I've had several truck inspections, and they always wait until week, 2 weeks after I've been to the office before they come do my inspection. So it looks bad because I
Okay.
haven't had enough time to actually stop off. And then while I was there, because after or during the inspection, we found out that a piece of the paneling on the truck and the side had sustained damage. Well, they asked me about it. I'm like, this is news to me because I'm just noticing it too. And then they look at me like I got three heads. And they questioned that. And I was like, look, at the moment the mirror took the crack and the hit, I told you all about it. So it's not like I'm hiding anything.
Mm-hmm.
And they still kept drilling me, asking me questions, insinuating.
Yeah.
So for one, if I give my word, I keep it or I die trying,
Yeah.
literally.
I hear you.
Um, to be called a liar, especially when I'm not lying, is the
Mhm.
quickest way to get me to go from one to I'll rip your throat out in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
And it's just like to add insult to injury, I actually did get some time the same day my inspection to go back and clean out my van.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm there cleaning out my van, the same supervisor that did the inspection decided to get his supervisor or my supervisor and his supervisor out to look at my vehicle. So I'm sitting around there and looking like an ass. And then the one supervisor that did the inspection proceeds to come, call me over and show me a fellow technician, their van and what they did. And then pointed out, he did it off the clock on his own time. I said, and first words out of my mouth were cool. And he's like, that's company pride. I was like, I got company pride too, but I know my worth. If I'm not on the clock, I'm not working,
Mm-hmm. Good for you.
especially when you all promised me time to get this shit done.
Yeah.
So money does not bring happiness.
It sounds like you were frustrated not to be respected, not to be seen for your innocence.
Oh, it gets better. It gets better.
Mm.
And that's one, I mean, it's one of those things. I will not be disrespected. And you're right, it was disrespect.
So let's just pause right there and do the work on it. Okay.
Sure.
So, part of what I want to invite you to do, and this is my practice just as much as it is yours, is to just notice that we're in the story, whether it's in the story in the moment with the boss, or whether it's in the story afterwards, or whether it's in the story in the silence of our own minds, right? Is the first thing is just to notice that. The second thing is just to give it a little distance, is to remember that this experience that you're having, this isn't all of who you are, right? You're someone who's capable of talking to crows. You're someone who's capable of intuiting very strongly and very deeply many things about nature, dogs, wolves, other animals that you come across. So that this piece of life, this flash of a scene in the movie of your existence is not the all of you. It's just some tiny little moment that's passing and won't even be remembered 2 weeks or 5 years from now, right?
No, unfortunately, it's moments like this that are all I can remember. My positive memories are far and few between, but moments like this stick with me for a decade or more.
They echo.
Yeah.
Yeah, they stick and they echo. I'm the same way. And that's why we're doing the practice, is to help rewire the brain, help rewire the body to let go of trauma as a default rather than clinging to trauma as a default. Yeah.
See, that's where I want to break this down because I actually have my suspicions.
Mm-hmm.
It's moments like this where I refuse to give in to my primal side.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a feeling if I could break that barrier and be the animal that I look up to the most, the wolf, the dog, the pack,
Yeah.
I would be a lot happier. But I
Yeah.
can't. I've seen so much negativity, so much violence, so much anger and hate that I try not to go down that road so that I've actually
Yeah.
stopped myself from being me.
You want to have your core self and not have violence in the process.
Well, actually, no, I'm to the point now that I want to be able to do that, but I know the cause and effects, and I can't.
So that's precisely what we're aiming for, is being able to have the absolute core, the absolute source, the absolute seat of your power, and to do that in a way that you feel in integrity.
Mm, actually, it's just more, I don't want to get in trouble with the law, but I want to be able to actually live like a human being,
Mhm.
knuckle dragging, bare bones, breaking. Yeah. The animal that I am, not just part of the animal that I am.
Yeah. There's a practitioner on YouTube who calls herself the crappy childhood fairy. And one of the practices that she recommends is thinking about things in terms of an airplane. And the idea is an airplane has three different states. It's either not moving on the runway, it's running down the runway about to take off, or the plane is full on taken off in the air. And she uses this metaphor to represent our emotional state and whether we are going where we want to go with our energies or not going where we want to go with our energy. And so, what I want to invite you to do is to notice the difference in yourself in the three states. So, for example, in myself, the difference in the three states might look like I'm not triggered at all by my boss. The plane is not moving on the runway at all. The boss is doing and saying stuff that's ruffling my feathers because there's an internal part of my inner knowing that is screaming to be integrated. And I'm trying to hold that back, but that's the plane's running down the runway and it's getting ready to take off. It's not taking off yet. I'm controlling it, but it wants to take off. And I'm certain that I could fly if I would just let my plane take off, but I don't want to get arrested, right? I don't want to get like fired. I don't want to get in trouble with authority. I don't want to have conflict with other people, whatever the case may be. I don't want to be a violent person. I want to be a good person, whatever the case may be. It's about not letting the plane take off. So that's part of what I wanted to offer is an invitation to just get some separation between the plane that's quiet on the runway, not moving, and the plane that feels like it would be so much better if it could just take off and fly.
I've been stuck on the taking off and flying for about a decade now,
Yeah.
or about a half a decade now.
Yeah. So when we're seated on that runway and nothing's triggering us, it's because we don't have values that are being confronted. And when the plane started to take off down the runway, started moving, it was because you had two values that were getting confronted. One was your value to be respected, and the other was don't call me a liar. It's the easiest way to go from 0 to 100. Your desire to be seen for your innocence. And those parts of our values are not the infinite, Godhead, magical, immortal, transcending lifetimes that is the true essence of who we most deeply are. And I know that that is familiar to you because someone in there keeps that plane on the ground. And that's the part that I want to call back into your practice is the part that's trying to keep the plane on the ground is saying, well, I don't want to get arrested. But there's also a part of that inner wisdom in you that knows your own integrity and that says, I don't want to be violent. There's a part of you that knows that there's something positive in that inner power. And that's what wants the plane to take off. I know that if I just had my power, there would be some reconciliation here. And so that's where the fork in the road lies. That's why the controller in you holds back the animal. Because what your inner guidance knows most deeply, and what I hear you most deeply want, is to be able to have your values in a way that's in integrity, that's in harmony with being human. And there's a part of you that knows that letting that plane take off is, the equivalent of driving it into the control tower and, exploding everything into oblivion. And you don't want to do that because your inner guidance knows better.
Actually, I want to, but I want to jump out of the plane before it hits.
Yeah.
I
So,
just, there's the captain of the ship saying, no, we can't go that route. As much fun as it would be,
yeah.
as rewarding and satisfying as it would be, there are
Yeah.
others that take it that,
Yeah.
need me.
So there are mental ways that I can help you integrate these two things, but I don't think that that's going to be the most powerful practice for you right now. I think the most powerful practice for you right now is to call on your higher self and to get some more uh, uh, legs up underneath your connection to your higher self. because you keep saying stuff like, well, I don't want to do it because I don't want to go to jail. But that's just putting the power in the hands of the man who just a second ago was disrespecting you, calling you a liar, and not seeing your innocence, right? This isn't about not getting arrested. This is about you being the master of all of those powers that are inside you, including the part that knows truth. And that higher self is the master of truth. That higher self is the part that before the plane started running down the runway, the higher self said, hey, there's disrespect here, and I can feel that. And that does not feel good because our emotions are our compass. They're our alarm system that tells us when we're connected or disconnected from higher truth. So, the logical way of integrating this is we have respect in one hand, we have our higher ability to communicate authentically in the other. And we might say something like, all right, this is not the respect I want to be receiving, but I know that this is not a moment that's going to hear my desire for respect because that's not the environment I'm in. So I'm going to make a request of myself about my needs for respect rather than telling my boss, hey, I would really like to be seen for my innocence here. Could you like not call me a liar because that's very disrespectful for me? And for some people who might be listening to this recording, that kind of articulation and expression of speaking truth to power may be exactly what helps that plane come to stillness because now we're respecting ourselves by speaking up for the truth that our body can feel when we're unhappy with something that's going on. But I'm not going to go to the logical route. I'm going to ask you to tune into the part of you that is bigger than all of this and that has much more strength than being hijacked by a dude who's basically just like you doing what he was trained to do and doing the best that he can. And you know that, but he was doing it disrespectfully. He was calling you a liar, but basically he's another dude on the other side of the mirror, another soul on the other side of a lot of trauma and abuse from his bosses and not being seen for his own innocence, right? There's just another aspect of creation that is on the other side of that vision. The character in the movie that we're watching over there, who seems to be the villain, is actually just a mirror, another aspect of the all that we are. And that's that higher self that I want to call you into. And there are a lot of different ways of calling your higher self into the moment. One is recognizing the humanity in the other person. And that's what I just did by talking about how that's a dude who's also been subjected to not being seen for his innocence and trying to do his job the best way he can and going through the motions the way that he thinks is best. And he's doing what he thinks his boss wants him to do, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Doesn't want to be called a liar, doesn't want to have his supervisor giving him a hard time, right? This is called compassion. Compassion is just recognizing that we all share the same values.
Unfortunately, the crew I work with does not have that much compassion. I can say with confidence that I have more compassion than anybody there.
Yeah. Now, if they're getting your goat, that means that they got power over your interior. And that's not what
Mm.
you want, right? You want to be the
Uh,
one who's in control of your own interior, not giving your power away to your boss getting your goat.
right. Yeah, pretty much. Because I'm tired of I'm tired of being the bigger person and the walking away, and I have to be able to. There's got to be my time to shine, to put my foot down, and to just knock somebody off the pedestal. Not literally, although that would be fun.
Yeah.
I haven't been in
So
a scrap in forever.
So, in the case of this particular story, this particular conversation, this particular moment with your boss, I was the one who pulled out the values for respect and being seen for your innocence. Now, what I want to do is I want to invite you to strengthen your ability to do that yourself faster before the plane gets running down the runway, before you start feeling disrespected, before you start getting your goose up, before.
Unfortunately, I gave you the straw that broke the camel's back and not the
Mhm.
precursor issue to that.
Yeah, and there are always precursors, and there are always straws that break the camel's back, and that's why the practice is so important. That's
Awesome.
why it's so vital to strengthen the muscles. This is called emotional hygiene. And if we're able to do the emotional hygiene as we go, it doesn't get piled up, or it piles up way less often. The idea is to be able to have the emotional hygiene muscles so strong that it doesn't matter if there are precursors or if this is the precursor. It doesn't matter if it's the straw that broke the camel's back or the 10th straw that broke the camel's back. It's the ability to pull on those strong interior muscles, regardless of the circumstances. So, in the
I
moment,
got you. I got you.
awesome. So, I want to invite you to join me on an exercise that's called watching the watcher. So I want you to replay that whole movie in your mind's eye, and I want you to just observe the movie. So there's the SK who's getting supervised and getting inspected and getting looked at like he's got three heads, right? You can see that character in the movie, can't you?
Sure can.
Hmm. And over there are the other characters, the supervisor characters, and the dudes that are calling SK a liar, and or not calling him a liar, but clearly disrespecting him, clearly not trusting his work ethic, clearly implying that he's supposed to breach his own self care by working off hours, off the clock, unpaid. Like all of this is just mountains and mountains and mountains of those characters doing the disrespect role, right? And just like your crows, here we are sitting on a power line and we're just watching this scene play out. Now, as that crow sitting on the power line, as that crow watching the scene play out, give me 3 words that describe how you feel as the crow watching this happen. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on, right? There's a mouse over there in the woods. There's the scene going on, the movie with these humans. There's all kinds of stuff. I can hear crows way, way off in the distance, right? There's like all kinds of stuff going on that this crow can observe. Just give me 3 words that describes how this crow feels watching the scene play out.
I really can't. I can't detach myself from that regard, from
That's
the from the
from
from
this
the
the
event.
scene. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's exactly why we're doing this practice. This is exactly the muscle that is part of the emotional hygiene that gives you your personal power. This is part of what connects you to your higher self. This is part of what will free you from the stress of all of those precursor events and reduce the amount of times that you're experiencing a straw that broke the camel's back. It's exactly this watching the watcher that will help reduce all of the tensions, all of the stress, all of the exhaustion, all of the depression, all of the desire to escape and check out, all of the intensity that makes you want to go ballistic. This is part of the muscle that that inner animal doesn't have. And so it's kind of like giving an extremely powerful wild wolf a recognition of his infinite magic capacity. As that crow on the power line, tell me 2 or 3 other things that you can see in your environment.
The dumpster.
Good. You can see the dumpster. What else do you see on this power line, Crow?
The entire parking lot.
Yeah, you can see the whole parking lot. You know things about this parking lot. You know things about that dumpster too, don't you?
Yes.
Tell me a couple things you know about the parking lot and the dumpster.
Yeah. There's food normally beside the dumpster, in the dumpster,
What
and that's
else?
a good place to get food.
Yep. That's a good place to get food. Yep. Tell me, Crow, what else do you see
And
in your
that
environment?
one gentleman,
Uh-huh.
I've seen him all over the place.
Yep. You've seen him before.
Odd fella. He likes to throw donuts out. They taste good.
Yeah. Yeah. So now you've had 3 rounds of connecting to the inner crow on the power line, the inner watcher. Describe to me how this crow on the power line feels, which is very, very different than the way SK was feeling a little while ago, right?
Yeah.
So what's the difference there? How does the crow feel differently than SK?
He's an observer. He's an
Yeah.
outsider looking in, so it doesn't affect him.
Yeah.
Having the people there when he makes his move might affect him, but until that happens, they have no effect or hold on him.
And being the outsider and not having an effect on him, how does that feel in your body when you notice this watcher, when you notice the way this crow feels? How do you feel in your body?
A lot calmer, a lot relaxed,
Yeah.
like the event never happened.
Yes. That is the higher truth.
Huh.
The higher truth is the part of us up on that power line that can step back away from the scenario and realize this isn't reality. The reality is way bigger. And the crow on that power line knows a whole lot of stuff, a whole lot of truths that have nothing to do with this little thing that those humans are playing out on the ground. Feel the body, that that crow feels up on that power line.
But I definitely feel how relaxed he feels.
He's relaxed. Yeah. And now, as the crow watching SK, the two of you are going to have a bonding moment. SK is just going to glance and see the crow on the power line, and the crow on the power line is just going to glance and see SK making eye contact. And the two of you, boom, like instant fire, are going to connect with each other's consciousness. And you, SK, are going to feel the power of the watcher in the crow that is your inner watcher. And as your eyes move away from that crow and back into the scene, you have within you that inner watcher's body. Your inner highest self is the wisdom of that crow. That is that calmer. That is that knowing lots and lots and lots of things that have nothing to do with this moment. Observe this movie with SK suddenly having this new infusion of watcher. Just allow that to give SK one breath of distance from this moment. All it takes is one breath, and now SK's on the power line. And that is the exercise that I want to give you to practice this week. The practice is called the watcher, but in your case, it's the crow on the power line. And whenever there's something that you can feel that plane is not sitting still on that runway anymore, that plane is starting to take off down the runway, you're going to just stop for a moment, and all of a sudden, you are the crow on the power line. Just take a breath. Know what you know. Look around. See what you see. Become the watcher. The thing is, there wasn't a crow in this conversation. There was only you and your mind. The watcher is part of who you are. That's part of your inner knowing. The part of you that was able to become the crow on the power line, that was able to know what was in that dumpster, that was able to tune into what was around in the surroundings. That is your immortal aspect. That is your higher self. That is your inner watcher. These keys are all within you, and I invite you this week to just exercise this muscle once, twice, 3 times. And I want to ask you to track them. Just write down on a piece of paper 1 or 2 or 3 times that you were able to call in the watcher, call in the crow in a moment that that plane started to want to run down the runway. And if you don't remember to do it in the moment, that's okay. You can do it just like we did after the moment. I mean, obviously, we're not with your supervisors right now. We're doing this whole practice after the moment has already passed, right?
Right.
So even if the homework doesn't get done in the moment, that's okay. The homework is still to bring 1 or 2 or 3 practices of bringing the watcher, even if you wind up doing the practice after the moment like we did just now. So I want to stop here and invite you to do your own integration, your own debrief. What are things that surprised you? What's your big takeaway?
Honestly, I'm just dumbfounded. Been chasing these answers for a minute. I've been trying to do this. It's funny. I've been trying to figure out this formula for a minute on my own because I've had all the questions, trying to work on this piece by piece by myself. And I realized, yeah, makes sense now. Everything I've been trying, I've been slightly askew with it.
Mm,
It's like it's like the puzzle come together. Finally, I can see the big picture.
wonderful.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, part of what we're all doing right now in this age of Aquarius, in this new era where more and more of us are awakening more and more every minute, every day, that inner wolf, that inner knowing is screaming to be free and to be alive and to be in the moment. That's all about the higher self wanting to be expressed. That awakening is going on all over the planet right now. The only way society has taught us to deal with the movie of the experience of day-to-day life is to complain. Misery loves company. We get angry, whatever the case may be. We weren't taught our higher selves. We weren't taught the crow on the power line. We weren't taught that there's an inner watcher that we can call on. We weren't taught that there were aspects of us that are multidimensional, but yet when we exercise it, it's right there. The key is right there within us. And so here we are, and we all have the opportunity to support each other at this, strengthening, this awakening, this rekindling, this coming together, and remembering who we most deeply are. So thank you for playing. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you showing up authentically with me. There's nothing that I'm more committed to than the I am consciousness for all of us, so that we can live in a place that is more in balance and accurate to the truth that we are all aware of inside us. Is there anything else you want to ask or add before we wrap for today?
Aside from thank you, no. And thank you immensely. I knew the answers were out there somewhere. I just didn't know where I was going to find them.
Well, big love to you. Until next time.
Yes, until next time.